bad want-tos that destroy us and gives us the right want-tos that enrich our life. The second thing I see here, well, let me ask you this before I move on to the second commandment that we see here. What in this city, this is an important question as we think as Presbyterians about how to reach a younger generation. What in this city gets in our way of enjoying God and loving Him with all of our heart, mind, and soul? Don't answer out loud, but in your own life, what gets in the way of you personally loving God with all your heart, mind, and soul, enjoying Him, savoring Him, learning how to delight in Him? For some, that's foreign language. Some don't even know what that's like. Whoa, enjoying God. I kind of do this as one of my chores that I check off for the week. Mowed my lawn, washed my clothes, homework, went to church. Foreign language. You mean going to church to enjoy God, to savor Him? What gets in the way in our lives of us enjoying God? Some might say my job. Others might say youth sports. Youth sports is like an addiction. I love youth sports. I think youth sports teaches people character, discipline, respect, a collegiate attitude. But that's almost idolatrous nowadays. Even every day of the week, I see parents breaking themselves financially, their time. Hey, can we get together to talk? No, I can't. This weekend I got to go here, and that weekend I got to go there because Junior has some kind of sports event. Others might say, it's my education, my job, recreation time, leisure time. It's different for everybody. But I think God calls us to examine what gets in the way of us loving God with all of our mind, heart, and soul. Why is that so important? Because God is not an ends to a means. He is the end Himself. And one of the beautiful things as we look at our second commandment is that as we love God with all of our heart and soul and enjoy Him, not only does He give us the right want-tos and take away wrong want-tos, He gives us the power to love our neighbor as ourself. Look at verse 39. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. I like the way the New Living Translation states this. A second, referring to a commandment, a second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. Sometimes I pass that little phrase by quickly. And a second commandment is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. Sometimes as a pastor, we could focus in our leadership so much on loving God that we forget about our neighbor. And who is our neighbor? Jesus described our neighbor in the form of a story with the Good Samaritan story. And the Good Samaritan symbolizes those people that we would least be likely to love, those that it would be hardest to love, those that it would seem most unnatural to love. Love our neighbor the way we love ourselves. Second commandment that is equally important. It also reminds me of a scripture in Ephesians chapter 5, 28 to 33. Let me read parts of it for you. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. No one hates his own body, but lovingly cares for it, just as Christ cares for His body, which is the church. So again, I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself. And that was Ephesians 5, 28 and 33, parts of it at least. What would our life, our workplace, our church, our family be like if we loved the people around us the way we love ourselves? Men, don't get mad at me. Men are good. At least I am, unfortunately. We're good when we see a new toy that we want. We'll find ways to buy it. When we're hungry at lunchtime and we see that we're hungry and we have money, we'll go buy a hamburger, we'll go buy a sandwich. When we start to have cravings on the inside, we'll go for it. If we want to hang out with the fellas or go play golf, I'm not a golfer, or go fishing, I am a fisherman. Ride a Harley. I do have a Harley, thank God. Thank God for Harleys. As men, sometimes we're so quick to feed our hungers. What would our marriages look like? The workplace, our church, as if we were quicker to feed the needs of others. Just the way we feed our own hunger. I really look up to women and admire how much God I see in them. The different hues of God that I see in women. My wife will forgo all kinds of different comforts, even if she's hungry, or if there's a certain amount of food. She always makes sure the kids get more than their share. I just see a lot of different hues and threads of God in women that I don't see in myself or some men. Those of you men that are good at that, don't get mad at me. I love you, man. But what would our city be like if we were quick to care about the needs of other people, issues of others, the way we care about our hunger, the way we're quick to buy ourselves something? What might our marriage look like? Teenagers, 20-somethings, what kind of a husband or wife might you be? What kind of a father or a mother might you become if you begin to develop that practice of loving others and meeting those needs as quick as you feed yourself, or as quick as you'll sit down and play the Xbox? If we're just as quick and just as passionate about helping those. What gets in the way of loving others in this city? One of the things that gets in the way for a lot of us is offense. Many of us have been hurt deeply, let down. There might be some here, as people I meet in the school, that have been neglected, abandoned by parents. That gets in the way from loving others as you love yourself. How do we get rid of that impediment, that brick in the wall that gets in our way of loving other people if it's an offense? I met with a guy in Santa Barbara. I had the pleasure of preaching in First Pres Santa Barbara, and I shared my background, how until I was 20 years old, I was addicted to cocaine and heroin. I was dead to God, had no hunger, no want to for God, no appetite. I was a dead man walking. And just like Jesus went in front of Lazarus' tomb and said, "Lazarus, come forth," one day he woke me up in 1987, and I came to love God more than I loved drugs and all the violence and the gang I was involved in Santa Barbara. And he had a son who's my age, and he had been profoundly hurt by his son. In fact, he was raising his grandson, which is a new phenomenon that's very common in our city. Grandparents raising children because their children have abandoned or neglected the responsibility. And he said, "I'm so angry at my son." This gentleman that was sharing this with me was in his 70s. And he said, "I provided everything for my son, worked hard for years, gave him a good life. He became a drug addict, and he abandoned his own